Welcome to episode 38 of the Necronama.com. The Akigahara Forest sits right along the edge of Mount Fuji, a mere 2-hour drive from Tokyo, Japan. Akigahara has become known as the Suicide Forest, one of the world's most used suicide sites. Suicide is so prevalent that there are signs at the entrances which roughly translate to read, "Think quietly once more of your parents, your siblings, and your children. Please do not suffer alone. Reach out." Enter Logan Paul. Logan Paul is an American YouTuber, internet personality, podcast host, and celebrity asshole. On December 31st, 2017, Logan Paul uploaded a video to his YouTube channel showing the corpse of a man who had recently died by hanging himself in Akigahara. Paul and his entourage had planned to camp in the woods and talk about the supposedly haunted area, but decided to cancel their plans when they found the body. Although the video garnered 6.3 million views in its first 24 hours, Logan Paul was almost immediately criticized by celebrities, politicians, and even fans for being insensitive to suicide victims by uploading it. As a result of the backlash, Paul removed the video from his YouTube channel, following up with a written apology on Twitter and a subsequent video apology, which was released to YouTube. YouTube eventually removed Paul's channels from Google Preferred, its preferred ad program. Logan maintains that he posted the video to talk about the seriousness of suicide and to push others to seek help, but critics saw it as exploiting the pain and suffering of an individual to garner more attention for Logan himself. It didn't help his case that he misbehaved the entire trip in Japan, including climbing into a moving forklift at a local fish market, removing his clothing in a crowded street, getting into a fist fight, and throwing an oversized pokeball at passing citizens, including Tokyo police officers. He was additionally asked by a security guard to leave Sensoji Temple in Tokyo for mocking people as they tossed coins into the shrine's offering box and prayed. Only a month later, at the end of January 2018, Logan Paul was back on YouTube with a documentary about suicide survivors, stating, "From this point on, I want to make an effort to contribute and immerse myself in the conversation, so I'm pledging to donate $1 million to various suicide prevention organizations." A few weeks after that, Logan Paul posted footage of himself tasering 2 dead rats. Anything for a like, subscribe, or share. I am James Sabata, horror author, screenwriter, co-host of the podcast you're listening to right now, and I have no followers on Instagram.
I am Don Guillory, author, historian, educator, co-host of this podcast, and I don't even bother with Instagram.
Joining us this week is Sarah from Spooky Sarah Says. Sarah, welcome to the show.
Hello, hello.
So tell us a bit about yourself.
Cool. Well, as you mentioned, I am starting a website, Spooky Sarah Says, and I already have a blog called Geeks Who Eat, where I create recipes and whatnot. So that's probably where more people know me, at least on the gram, since we're talking social media-ish. I have an Instagram. I don't use it as often as I should, but, it's there. I'm more around Twitter, Spooky Sarah Says. But, I've been present in the online world, I guess, forever. I mean, I had LiveJournal, all that jazz. So,
nice. That's a throwback.
It's like, yeah, it's kind of like one of those things where, I've always been there. And, quarantine is easy because I talk to everyone through social media anyway. Who needs in-person?
I feel the same way. Yeah, totally.
Oh,
I actually like it better.
Yeah, now I don't have to put on pants all the time.
I feel like grown-up pants. I feel like I communicate better online or via Skype calls or whatever else because you have my full attention. I'm not in a bar with 900,000 things happening around me because I can't help but pay attention to everything happening around me. And so I feel like people actually get more of me this way than meeting me in person now. It's kind of strange.
That sounds about right. That's probably about right. I can say that I'm on that.
And then, Don's getting his doctorate, so it's not like he was interacting with people anyway.
No.
So we're going to talk Tragedy Girls today, and Sarah has been telling us she wanted to do this episode pretty much since we started this podcast. So why were you so excited for this film?
I love this movie. So obviously, because I've been on social media since the LiveJournal days, like any movie that uses like social media as part of its premise, like immediately has like plus 10 to love for me, because it's just social media is so ingrained in like society and our culture now that I love seeing like filmmakers make something from it. You have like movies like this or Searching or, any of these other like uses of computers and all of the social media stuff. So it just, for me, it was a very natural fit. And I love the friendship. Like, I mean, as a woman, I've had, the best friend like that. Not that I've killed anybody, not that
you would admit on our show. No,
but what I mean is like you have this like the friendship that no matter what stupid ass thing your friend is gonna do, you side with them and you've got their back. So I really there was a lot with this movie that I like identified with, and that just like the whole goal of getting followers and doing it for the gram or doing it for the Twitter, like, I understand that like mentality a lot.
Hey, Don, is that like
Yes.
when one person obsessively checks downloads and then keeps telling the other person like how we have to adjust the podcast? You know what? Let's talk about this later. Never mind.
I have no idea what you're talking about, sir. I just aim the bullhorn at you and say, calm down.
So I had never seen this film, and I purposely put it off until we were going to do it with you. I knew a lot of the aspects of what was going to happen because I'd read spoilers like when it first came out, plus like I've had friends that like it who mention it here and there, so I knew different stuff that was going to happen, and I was still pleasantly surprised with how it plays out. Like even when I knew stuff was coming, their execution of it was really good. I love the opening scenes up to the first twist, shall we call it? We'll talk about it in a minute. But like, it's such a great hook to pull you in. It hits you with these tropes that you think you know, and then it immediately establishes, hey, we're going to do something cool and different. And I never lost that throughout the film. So I want to thank you for making me watch it, first off. And secondly, I just want to say how much I fucking enjoyed this.
I saw it during the International Horror and Sci-Fi Film Festival's like fall showcase that they did like a few years ago. And I really I got to see it theatrically. So for me, that was
nice.
like an amazing experience. Like it's even better on the big screen, like especially, and I won't spoil it, but especially.
Oh, you can spoil. We're all about spoilers.
Well, I won't spoil it so early in the conversation, I should say.
All right.
Like the end scene, or like the close to end scene, I should say, not the actual ending, but the right at the ending, that scene on the big screen was just like so like, for me, it was really like powerful. I was just like, dang, that just happened. Wow. And I really like this movie, like definitely holds a soft spot in my heart. I do wish it would get a better Blu-ray release than what it has. Like, it's basically they're only doing kind of like a burn to order kind of deal. So, and it doesn't have like any bonus features. And like, I'm hoping that some distributor will pick it up and actually give it a release that it deserves. But
wow, yeah, I would say this would be one of those films I would expect to have a ton of extras and cool shit. So that surprises me. But no, I mean, even thinking about some of the deaths, whether it's how shall we say this for now, like the Saw or the gym deaths, like those would be really fucking cool on the big screen. Like they were cool as it was. But yeah, I definitely would like to have seen those on the big screen.
yeah, for sure. It was just a really cool experience, and I'm like, I love when, you know, you get like that kind of programming through a film festival. And gosh, those were like free screenings too when they did them. It was just like, you know, get it in advance and show up.
That's cool.
I even won a Tragedy Girls poster. I was pretty stoked about that. I just have to get it framed.
So what about you, Don? Had you seen this before, or did you watch it for the first time now?
No, when Sarah had mentioned it, as far as that was the film that she wanted to pick, immediately I was like, well, let me go ahead and check this out, because I hadn't heard of it. Obviously I hadn't seen it if I didn't hear about it. And so I went searching for it, and thankfully it was on Hulu, and it's still on Hulu now.
It is.
And I was like, holy shit, this is actually, because I sat there thinking like, okay, what's the twist going to be? Where's this going to be? You know, what's going to happen? Where's the point where this falls apart for him? And I'm sitting there, and every time I think I've got it, I'm proven wrong. I'm like, son of a bitch. You know, there are a lot of things that were shocking as far as the deaths that were done in this film, which I thought were great. You know, some people might be a little bit too gruesome, but I thought they were great because it was like, you know, you're giving me a take, you know, you're shocking me with those death scenes, but you're really sucking me in with the storytelling and the way that this arc is working out, to the point where you're thinking like, oh, it's just a couple of stupid teenage high school girls that are trying to, you know, pump up their social media presence and followers and things like that. And you see the links that they're willing to go to for it because, you know, they're in some little podunk town. They want to get the fuck out of there. And one of the ways they could do this is become famous. And as aside from, you know, other people we've talked about before, or other films that have addressed it before where somebody kills to become famous, they're not just doing that. We want to have the social media presence that carries these stories to become famous, but we want somebody else to get the credit for killing these people, which I thought was a really cool hook.
Yeah, they want to be famous for reporting it, not for doing it. If people want to get that viral video, it doesn't matter if it's them in the video. They just want that viral whatever.
Absolutely. And you know, the thing that I admired most in this was how it doesn't work right away. You know, so many films would have just jumped into their plans working. And I love that it fails at first. Like the first couple kills, people are like, oh, it was an accident. Maybe he ran away, you know?
Yeah.
And they're like, when they're in class and the sheriff's like, we're pretty sure he ran away. And I think it's Michaela, I don't remember for sure, is like, no. That cracked me up. I love that they're like, no, that's not what happened at all. What are you talking about? You know? And of course that leads to them having to do very gruesome things to prove that it's not an accident. I love that build. I think that's such intelligent writing, and it also just made it really fun for me.
Yeah, I love the writing on this one. It's just a very like smart movie. Like the choices that they make with the story are really just, for lack of a better word, they're just smart. Like, you know, it doesn't feel super predictable. Like you think it's going to be predictable, but then it's not. And then, you know, at the point where they fight with one another and you're like, oh crap, now what's going to happen? Like, and it just, you know, the end, you don't see it coming.
You know, let's kick through a quick summary. Just for anybody who hasn't seen it, who's listening. Do you want to give us a summary, Sarah, since you've seen it more than us?
Oh, man, I've only seen it like twice.
Oh, really? I totally thought you'd watch this like 20 times because you love it so much. But
no, it's one of those movies that I don't actually watch a ton because I don't want it to become like watered down for me.
Right.
Like when I watched it yesterday, it was the second time I had seen it, and I was like, damn, I really love this movie. Like, so good. But there's certain movies. There's certain movies that I just don't watch all the time. And I love them. They're like some of my favorites. But because I don't want like all the like the cool stuff or the twists to get like too ruined or just too predictable for me in that movie, I just don't watch them.
All right. So let's run through a small summary. Let's start with the beginning. So we have the classic making out in a car scene, and you hear the killer outside, and the girl looks at the boy and she's like, "Go check it out." And he's like, "What? No, I don't. What? No, I'm not going." And then she's like, "I thought you were a man," which I just loved, because knowing where this was going, that's such a great line. And of course he gets out and he checks it out and he's like, "I don't see anything." And he turns around and he gets a fucking machete to the head. And we're going to come back to that, because that's a horror twist without knowing it yet, because he doesn't fucking die right there. And then of course, the girl gets out of the car and she's running and the killer's chasing her, and it's a fucking trap to catch the killer. And we have our first twist. And holy shit, I love this. So then they take the killer and they're basically interrogating him. They tell him that it's to find out how to do things, and maybe it is, but it's also to set him up for their own whatever they're going to do. It's great. So walk me through this part, guys. Like, what did you like about this part?
I liked I liked when I saw it in the theater, like how like unpredictable this was. Cause like when I saw it, I was like, oh gosh, here we go. Like, it's going to be the typical girls making out with a dude, gets, they both get off and boom, start the movie. But then like, because when I saw it, I knew nothing about it. I didn't know who the cast was. I went in completely blind. Like, yeah. I didn't know who the main actresses were. Like, so, as far as I knew, this was just some person who's going to get, 2 minutes of screen time and move on. But then when that happened, I was like, oh, shit, that's where this is going, huh? Cool. Okay, I'm on board, and the whole, go out there, be a man. I was like, oh, ouch. Wow. You're willing to sacrifice this guy. Woo. Goodness.
Do you know how many hand jobs she had to give? Like 30. Okay.
At least 30.
God, I love that line. Can you imagine how disappointing that is? You're jacking all these guys off and the killer never fucking shows up, but you can't even whine about it to anybody.
So you have a best friend who's in on the thing.
Hilarious. But yeah, I really dig this beginning. And like you were just saying, like you didn't even know who the cast was. And I was thinking about, even if you had the typical movie poster there, all the posters I've seen, and maybe I haven't seen all of them, but they all have the mask on. So you still wouldn't know who the main characters are. And so, yeah, I hadn't even considered that. That's great.
Yeah, me, I'm not a fan for spoiling the movie for myself before I go see something. So kind of like Sarah, I was going in blind because she recommended this or picked this film. So I figured I would go see it. I didn't even read the synopsis. I just made sure it was the right title and click play. And as it was playing, it was that same thing. I was like, well, okay, well, I'm not expecting her to live, because I've only, once I recognized her, I was like, well, that's Negasonic Teenage Warhead from Deadpool. And I was like, well, okay, maybe she's just, she's an extra, or this is a bit role that she has in this film. But as it progressed and you realize what, that they're setting the trap for this killer, and it's all about them. They're curious. They to the extent they almost want to become his proteges, but not in the way that he's thinking. It's like, we want to know how to kill. We want to know how we can actually get by on this, or at least become famous from this, because they've got their scapegoat. But they want I guess you could say, the thrill of the kill. But then they also want the popularity from it, along with the anonymity, which was kind of a really cool way to go about it. Because you've got these young girls that, for most, at least within most stories, they're seen as non-threatening. They're not seen as the character that's really going to carry the story. There's going to be some boy who's going to save the day. It's all all those typical tropes I'm looking for, and I'm glad none of them came out in this film. Even the point where they stop being friends for a little bit, you're expecting, well, it's going to be over a boy and they're going to be liking the same boy, or some stupid shit. And I love the fact that they didn't go that route as far as the end of the story. It's
kind
still
of over a boy.
Well, But then you find out it's not, though. That's what like they trick the audience so well where I'm like, okay, that's what they're doing. But then when they pull you in the last 10 minutes, you're like, you sons of bitches, you got me.
What I found interesting, though, is that, like, you mentioned the tropes. They try at the end, like, you know, the boy tries to save the girl. Because he's like, you know, come with me. You don't need her, you know. Let me save you. We'll be fine. We'll go to college together, blah, blah, blah. Like, you know, he's got this whole, like, he comes in on his, like, you know, he's the white knight thing where he's like, oh, I've got to, like, be like your savior. And then she's like, no, like, screw that. Like, hell no, she's my best friend. And, like, you know, and then the end happens. And it's like, you know, and I appreciated that they, like, really, like, you know, turn that trope on its head. And they're like, we're not going to do the, like, the classic boy saves girl. And,
right,
you know, she kind of saved herself. And then, like, she saved herself from the hell of her small town by, like, you know, offing said boy. Spoiler alert. you know,
the other thing I like about it is she's kind of like, that sounds great, but with her, not you.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, yeah, I'll go to college with my best friend. I'll get out of here with my best friend. Bye.
You bring up a good point as far as this idea of escaping, or at least the guy feeling as though he's the one who's going to help her escape or get to safety, because that's what you get. You not just in this film, but that's the way it's kind of taught within society, as far as like, oh, you know, the guy's going to save you, and the best way to get out of your town is to find that person that you can marry and escape from your, you know, bullshit existence or life or whatever. Whereas this film, I think it's
parents. Girls are taught, you know, through their whole life, and actually men are too, for that matter. You know, you escape mom and dad once you get married. Like, you know, my mom married her first husband, who she didn't love. She told me, she said, you know, I didn't love him. And I said, well, why'd you marry him? She said, to get out of my mother's house. That's a very common societal thing. You don't hear it as much, you know, in our generation, but it is. But because it's been so ingrained in society for so long, it's, you know, it's still very present in movies.
Another generation or so that will disappear, because the whole idea is, as much shit as people want to give millennials, and I think for this group of students or these characters, they would be part of that Generation Z. They're not getting married at the same rates as the previous generations, X and the Boomer generation, and not buying houses in the same way. And I think what they're starting to realize is all the stuff that they had been taught, or at least even up to our generation in X, all that you've been taught is bullshit anyway. So why should you have to go and buy a house? Now, I mean, even if you could afford it, why do I have to go ahead and buy a house? Like, what purpose is that serving? And then you start to talk this thing about independence, or you have people that are afraid to leave abusive relationships because, you know, or just not even abusive relationships, just toxic relationships, because they might have health insurance under somebody else's name because of their job. Or you have people who are not willing to leave a job because of health insurance is available. And it's a shitty job or a shitty situation. So, you know, you're almost taught that you have to, I guess, adhere to whatever the societal norms are, or settle in order to have some sense of freedom. And I like the fact that these two girls, that's not what they see. They're controlling their own destiny for the most part. You know, they're doing it in a very morbid way. Well, they're doing it in a very morbid way. Like, they're trying to control it as much as possible. And what they end up doing is they're controlling this entire town, and even beyond the town, as far as the amount of media access that they end up having from the local reporters, the state, the national news that eventually gets involved, where they are now controlling the narrative as opposed to being victims of the narrative.
So I want to go back really fast to the point of the film where I left off with the summary. And I really like, and you kind of mentioned this, Don, how when they're asking him how to do these things so that they can do their own stuff, they're really also setting him up. If they do things the way he tells them to, it'll add up more that he's the killer. And nobody ever really points that out, but I think that that's a great thing in the film as well. But then that immediately leads to one of my favorite things, which is when the kid who took the hatchet or the machete to the face wakes the fuck up. And he's like gurgling blood and they freak out. And what I like about this is it immediately sets up that things aren't going to go according to plan.
Exactly.
And that in itself is great writing, but it's also a very humorous moment for anybody that's into these kind of stories because we almost never see that, you know? And it's so great how it just fits in perfectly. And so then that leads us to the scene I already talked about, excuse me, where the sheriff comes into the classroom and says that Craig probably ran away, and the girls freak out because, you know, they spent all this time killing him and nobody seems to care. And then that leads us to the ex-boyfriend, Toby. And I love that they got, what's his name? Josh Hutcherson? I love that they brought him in for this because there's no way that we immediately think you're the next one that's going to die. Like, it's such a great way to just twist expectations that little bit. And like at this point, I would assume Jordan's going to die and not whatever, Toby, right?
Right.
And instead, they just totally set him up. But the other piece that I love about this is it immediately shows how easily distracted these two girls can be. Because while Michaela's this badass through the whole fucking film, when she's around Toby, she like loses everything. She's just, yes, Toby. Okay. That's nice. Yeah. You know? And I don't know, like on one hand, it feels really weird because it's such a juxtaposition of character. And on the other, I think it's very true to life. What do you guys think about this relationship, if you will?
I don't know. Part of me felt like she was putting on. Maybe that was just me looking, you know, at least looking back on it from the end of the film. But then it's one of those things like I'm not sure because they tricked me so many times. I don't know what was real and what wasn't.
But they do make a point. Like I think that she genuinely did like him because like there's that in the movie where, you know, she has to call him and she's doing the breathing on the phone and he says like 3 other girls' names.
I was number 4.
Yeah. And so I think like genuine, like I don't think like she's putting it on. Like I think that there was something there, and heck, maybe that's even like a little bit more why the breakup was maybe more like what pushed her over the edge or something, right. You know, like.
That's totally what I think, because she's not allowed to keep the boy that she likes, but she's supposed to let Jordan live. You know, like to me, that totally leads to the breakup stuff. Also, I don't think that she's putting it on because she fucking makes out with his dead body. So
yeah,
you're also dealing with sociopaths.
That doesn't really fit into the facade, in my opinion.
But again, it's one of those things. I'm like, well, I felt duped by the movie a couple of times, so now I'm kind of like, I don't know what to believe anymore.
Can I just tell you how much I love, you know, Toby, his motorcycle hits the spikes. I don't know where the fuck they got these spikes, by the way, but I love it. You know, his motorcycle wipes out. He's laying in the ditch. They have to stab him to death, and it's hard to do. It's not working because once again, nothing goes according to plan. And then, you know, Sadie goes up to talk to the passing car. And I love this moment where Toby looks MK in the eyes and he's like, if I had to be murdered by somebody, I'm so happy it was you.
Right.
What a weird line, but holy shit, I loved it.
Well, even when she's stabbing, like they have that little argument over how Michaela's screwing it up and saying like, you know, she stabs like 4 or 5 times and Sadie's like, you're just hitting bone.
I'm trying.
Give me the knife.
You know, now that I'm thinking about it, though, I think it's the very next scene where Michaela's kind of a dick to Jordan. Mm-hmm. And that could very well be like they just killed the person she liked, but Sadie's lust boy is still there. You know?
Yeah, she's got this little horror boyfriend that like she's watching Dario Argento with, and you know.
Something DiGiorno's? What? Oh. There's so much humor in this that's specifically for horror audiences.
There was a of throwbacks to like horror stuff too. Like there's, you know, like the machete being the obvious quintessential serial, you know, slasher killer weapon, and then like, you know, like the whole like dance scene is very Carrie, and like even the very last part of the dance scene where everyone's, you know, on fire, that like where the hands are reaching to the glass, that's like very like reminiscent of the new Dawn of the Dead remake.
Yep.
Like I don't know why, like that scene like stuck out to me. I was like, wow, they just like basically like took like, you know, Dawn of the Dead and put that in a gym, like. And so I really loved the little like nods to other horror in this movie.
I was actually reading some stuff and people were like, oh, this movie's so lazy because they ripped off this and they did this. And I was like, no, you're missing the point. Like, the point is ripping it off and doing it differently to make it entertaining. Like,
Why would
it's
you even say
not
ripping
quite
it
a
off?
satire. Yeah, I'm using their words. But, like, it's not quite a satire, but it's fun. It's a fun homage to these other things that we love. I think it works really well.
And the thing is, you can borrow from other horror in order to tell your story, and people within horror don't get pissy about it. It's like, oh, you know, this was a great way to do this. It was a great way to change the way it had been done before. Because even the moment when I forgot the girl that gets all fucked up in the shop, in the wood shop. Yeah, when they kill her and then they're chopping up the body, the janitor walks in and kind of like with that whole thing of, oh, you know, they're planning all this stuff out, but not everything's going according to plan. And he walks in and it's, oh shit, we're caught. This guy's just like listening to his iPod or whatever, playing his music, taking the trash out, and just like, go about my day. Meanwhile, you know, Michaela and Sadie are like, oh, fuck. Oh, okay, he didn't see us.
Yeah, and for anyone that hasn't seen it, like, this body is completely chopped up. Michaela's literally holding this girl's head in her hands. They're both covered in blood. There's blood everywhere. And this guy just doesn't fucking see it at all. And they're both standing there like, hey, we didn't lock the door. That sucks. And he just turns and leaves. Never sees it. But let's talk about Sil really fast. So, like, the build up to this is she's the head cheerleader. And she clearly, I don't know that she hates these two, but she doesn't like them very much. And she's very concerned with her image. You know, she's
a typical mean girl.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Except she's trying to also delay the image of being a mean girl. You know, like she's at the food banks and she's doing all these things you're supposed to do to appear perfect, which I think is great because it's such a commentary on social media and what we do to appear perfect and not have any problems, right? Except she's doing it in daily life.
I mean, that's like, isn't that what most mean girls do? Is like, they're like the picture perfect, like, oh, I would never do that. And then they're like online bullies.
Right.
Because then you also have the Regina Georges of the world who just set everything on fire and expect you to cheer. They both work well, though. But, you know, so she makes this little library and she's in some kind of competition that I didn't fully comprehend. And they destroy her little library and then they fuck her up. And I like that what I love about this scene is, once again, things don't go according to plan because Michaela's wearing these shoes that Sil has commented on in the past. And so she immediately reveals her identity. And then the girls don't even try to do anything about it. You know, they just like lift their masks and start talking. I thought that was so great because any other horror movie, like if you know the identity, they instantly jump on you. And instead they're like caught off and they just like start talking. And I don't know, that really threw me off in a great way. And then of course the death is insane and like a total, I don't want to say it's a Rube Goldberg, but it's just very strange and shouldn't have happened the way it does. And so it's great that it does. And she takes the saw blade to the head.
Doesn't every death, with the exception of the last one, not go according to plan?
Yeah.
Because even Big Al, which, you know, is coming.
Oh, that one definitely doesn't go according to plan.
Yeah. The way they play him, that when I was like, oh, we're going to poison him. And you know, even going in there, he won't drink the fucking water because Sadie is sitting there just, you know, Sadie was out in the car and what was it? Jordan was texting her or something, was saying where he was going, and she's like, "Oh shit, we need to hurry up." She makes a noise, and Al gets suspicious that somebody's outside. Meanwhile, he's got this teenage girl trying to seduce him into drinking water, which I thought was hilarious. Big Al apparently is not having any trouble with the ladies, but a teenage girl thinks like, "Yeah, I'm going to go in there and seduce Big Al because apparently, he's this big fat guy, so he must want some hot young thing." I'm like, Big Al's not having any problems, and he definitely doesn't lack for confidence. So, you showing up during his workout session is not going to be one of those things where it's like, "Oh, you know what? I've never looked at you 18-year-old girls this way before, and I think I'm going to start now." Because she starts talking about, "Oh, you got some big muscles and got all this other stuff," and starts taking her clothes off, and he's sitting there like, "Yeah, you probably need to leave. Why don't you get out of the gym? This is not your place." Which is an awesome thing because it plays off of their idea that the guys are going to be, fawning over them or falling over themselves to get to them and trying to get with them, kind of like when they use the first boy's bait in the beginning. We can easily do this. We'll just use feminine wiles, and the feminine wiles in this case aren't working. So it's all right. Well, let's see what else we can do to get Big Al going. And it eventually just turns into, again, kind of like the other deaths themselves, not just the other death, but the other deaths where I didn't plan this out, or at least I planned it out and it's not going according to plan. And now it just turns into a total clusterfuck where you see weights being thrown across the gym, which, as somebody who goes to the gym, I had to sit there and do the math and think, like, you can't throw a 25-pound weight like that. It's not going to happen. It's not a Frisbee. So I'm sitting there questioning the physics of what's. No, Big Al has no problem. I'm talking about the two girls where it's kind of like it, and then it finally catches, because even when one of them uses the barbell, which by itself is 45 pounds, and it's not something you can swing like a baseball bat, she hits him with it, and I'm thinking like, no, you just suspended my belief on this one, because that's no.
I like the insanity of it. Sarah, how do you feel about?
I had fun with it.
Sarah, how do you feel about the relationship here between the two friends? Like, this is the big distrust moment, right? Or at least Michaela takes it that way.
I mean, I think that, like, this is so true to, like, female friendship. Like, I would say that most females have that friend that they, their ride or die friend that they have at some point had a huge argument with. Like, or, you don't trust what I'm trying to do, or you don't believe in me. Like, this is, like, a very common, I mean, at least I think I've had this happen, with a couple friends. Like, I have a friend from high school who she and I on the regular have, like, a year where we won't talk to each other, where we'll just be, like, pissed off about something. And then something will happen and we'll be like, "Oh, hey, are you okay? Everything's cool? Okay, well, friendship's back on. How's it going? What's new in life?" Like, this is, like, to me, I feel like this is a very common thing for a lot of people. Like, especially women. Like, it's not like every friendship is like this, but I feel like a lot of people have that one friend where you just, like, you finally get sick of their shit, you call them out, they get mad, and then you don't talk for a while, and then you realize that you were both being stupid, and then you move on.
Me and Don have that, and sometimes we fight, and then the next day we're fine, and then we realize all the millions of dollars we make from this podcast, and we just come back together like the Rolling Stones and keep going.
But no, you bring up a good point. Both of you bring up good points about the idea of the friendship and the trust that goes on there, because it doesn't matter how tight you are with somebody. If there's this point where you think that they doubt that you're able to do something, that it's gonna register in your head that they don't see that I'm worthy of whatever it is, or they don't trust me, which is the other thing, because it's, she was going in to kill Big Al, and she sees it as a slight that her friend is coming in to help her, when really it's, no, we need to do this quickly because I need to get back to my house. but it's still not going to be taken that way because, you know, one, you came in and you interrupted it, and then two, you got my kill. Like you stabbed him, and then you dropped the barbell on his head. Like you released the break. Oh, it was great. It was hard to watch the first time I saw it because I wasn't expecting it. I just expect, oh well, you know, he's dead on the thing, and you know, if you've ever worked with a SmithKline or any type of system like that, you know, there are breaks, but the breaks don't look like that. The breaks are, you know, it like built into the system, not, you know, one little pin that you can pull out and it goes slamming down on somebody's head.
It's probably good that they don't work that way.
Oh, that's between that and like leg press machines. Those are the things that people are the most scared of. Like, oh, I'm gonna do whatever, and then my legs are gonna snap in half. But yeah, it's a great reveal that you start to have this I guess this change in their relationship to where that trust isn't there as much, and you start to see those cracks forming, or those possible cracks forming.
And then doesn't she say like we have to get home because Jordan Jordan's on his way? So like There she's adding insult to injury. Now not only do you not trust, you know, as a friend you don't trust me, but now you're making me rush my kill because you have to go get home to your guy. Like, you know, like I feel like there's like that going back to like what we were talking about earlier. There's like that like I killed the guy I liked, you know, and now you're rushing me so you can go home to your guy. Like, not cool.
I like how misleading it is as well. Like, Sadie doesn't explain it like, hey, he's coming, and if I'm not there, people are going to start asking questions. You know, like, it's so open to interpretation, and I love how easily miscommunicated or easily misunderstood it can be. It's a really well done part, like so much of this movie.
Well, and that's like another little like I think nod to social media in general, because like how many times has somebody said something like on a comment or something and you're like, well, shit, that's not what I meant. How dare you think that that's like what I meant? Like, you know, people miscommunicate, or, you know, it's not clear what people say on social media. You know, a lot of times it is, but like there are times where you can make like, or even through a text message, you don't know the tone or the, you know, the reason behind something. And so like that's like playing out into their real life.
Oh, you just caused some PTSD. You just triggered a couple of things with me. Oh man, Sarah, this is a therapy session now.
Don't forget to charge him.
Yeah, let's just say in a previous relationship I had, there were a number of texts that were misread and often got me into trouble because it's like, I don't like the tone that you use. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, well, I read your text and this is what it said, and I took it to mean this. I'm like, well, that's not what I meant. I said, I'll see you later. I'm like, I didn't type, I'll see you later, you know, with some attitude. It's like, I'll see you later.
So this is that Key and Peele skit?
And that was what I think about. Well, that was one of the things I thought about when I first saw that sketch. It was how quickly you can misread someone's intent with a text message, which I've done with you, James, where I'm like, this motherfucker right here. Okay. All right. You want to go? Let's go.
Well, I mean, in fairness, I do use a lot of racist terms, and I constantly send you pictures of my middle finger. So I can see how you would misread that.
No, that's one thing I would never misread, my friend. It's two words. It's 2 words, 1 finger. But no, it's great because this movie hinges on social media and communication and miscommunication. And it's great that you had that one moment where, you know, Sadie comes in and she's trying to do sign language and then making, you know, tenting her hands to make house. And Michaela has no idea what the hell she's saying. And it's just great to me because I'm sitting here watching these two fumble over, you know, this discussion that needs to happen. But you know what? Let's go ahead and kill Big Al, and then we can talk. And then when you have the chance to talk, she still screws it up because she doesn't communicate like you said, Sarah. Hey, this is what needs to happen so people don't figure out we're the ones doing it. It's, oh, Jordan's at the house. He's meeting me there, so I need to hurry up and get home.
So we get to the house, and Jordan has brought the police records that he stole from his father. I love how it's kind of a trope to bring evidence to the killers, but they did it in an interesting way, if you will. I like how, he has a legit reason to be there, and not just the crush. The crush is always present in these kind of things, or usually present. Mm-hmm. But, he's been making the videos, and he's been involved in what he thinks they're doing. And I like that it makes sense for him to bring this. It's supposed to be something that's going to help them with their website, and it's supposed to, prove that there's a killer, basically, right? That's what I took from it anyway. And I really, really like, again, how well done this is, because I feel like this is something that normally just gets randomly thrown into horror movies. And then you're like, why the fuck would he do that? But in this one, we have a reason. So we go to Big Al's memorial service sort of thing.
Right.
Number one, we get the hashtag Remember Al. And I love how easily they make that happen. But we also get this moment where Jordan thinks he sees Michaela do something right before everyone in the room gets a picture on their cell phone.
Right. Of Big Al's corpse.
Yeah, of Big Al's corpse. And it instantly builds that Michaela fucking did it. Like, he's instantly, or she's involved. He's instantly on that. And again, most horror tropes, he would see that and then not think about it until way later and then be like, oh shit, how did I miss that? But no, he's instantly, hey, we need to talk. I think your best friend's in on this. I love, again, how this all comes together. But what did you guys think of this scene? Like, do you think it's too much that they send the picture to everybody, or like, how does that even work?
No, it fit right into their brand. I mean, it's I don't know how it works. I mean, other than, hey, we're going to post it to Twitter I'm not a tech guy, so having access to everybody's phone numbers or everybody who might have been following the page, they had the ability to text everybody at once from an anonymous number. But I like the fact that Jordan not only steals the police records from his dad and gives them to Sadie, but when he does have that suspicion of Michaela while everybody's out at the march, he's breaking in and getting the medical records of Michaela to prove, oh, well, she's got some psychological issues. So, here's my smoking gun as to here she's possibly doing this. She's probably the one who's involved in all the killings and stuff. But yeah, even they're marching through the town at night before they find the mayor's body because, spoiler alert, the killer has escaped, or the killer that they detained has escaped, and now he's killing.
Detained.
Yeah. And they're feeding him stuff like dog food, which is great.
Well, the dogs and cats don't need it because they've been slaughtering them as well.
Yes. See, I didn't mention anything about dogs getting killed, Sarah. I promised you before we started recording. James brought it up. But well, you know what? Let's go to that trope there, or at least that rule. So you've got these animals that are being slaughtered, and even at that meeting, that town hall meeting, where Sadie and Michaela jump up and they're like, what's going on? You're covering this up, Chief. We need to know what's going on. And that one guy says, yeah, and we need to talk about all our pets that are missing. And then nobody gives a shit. It's kind of like they go right back to, Al and any of the other people that are dead. And this guy's sitting there. Meanwhile, we're talking about people who've been murdered. And he's saying, like, our cats and dogs are missing. What's going on? And it's this cool little throw in to kind of talk about what else has been taking place as far as them, I guess, dealing with this town, or at least the storytelling within this town that, the pets should start giving you an idea that something is wrong here, because a lot of those serial killer movies or documentaries and films that we watch, it typically involves some type of animal mutilation or killing. And if that's part of their way of training themselves, they fit perfectly into that. At least the history of serial killers.
So what about you, Sarah? Do you have anything to add to these scenes?
Not really. These are kind of the scenes where, for me, I was just like, okay, we can exposition. Let's move on.
Right? Yeah.
I like the action parts of this movie a lot more. I'm like, yeah, I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. I just it's kind of that part of the movie where, I'm like, okay, we get it. You needed to have a little exposition as to what's going on. Build it up a little bit. Okay, next.
So we move to Michaela saying Jordan needs to die. And Sadie's instantly all, no, he doesn't, You want to walk us through this part, Sarah? And where their relationship is at this point?
Oh, man. You're putting me on the spot.
I was just trying to let you talk because we keep talking.
No, I'm totally happy letting you guys talk. But no, basically, I feel like at this point, Michaela's kind of she's realizing that Sadie's getting distracted. They're supposed to be doing this Tragedy Girls thing, and, was this the part where, after, oh no, because this isn't the part yet. Never mind. Sorry, I'm, skipping ahead. She's seeing that, sorry, I had a whole conversation in my own head. Sadie's obviously getting distracted. She's hanging out with Jordan more. Michaela's getting jealous because she's clearly killed her, her guy interest for this. And now she's she's realizing that Jordan knows too much. He's not just helping them with their blog anymore or their, social media. Now he's figuring shit out. And so she wants to tie up that loose end. But I think at this point, I don't think that Sadie has decided, what she's going to do. I don't think she's decided what her escape is going to be yet.
So this is where she realizes Jordan stole her burner phone. And so now he definitely has to die. And she has a better reason for it. So we go to Jordan's house. And Sadie sits down with him, and basically he runs her through why he thinks that Michaela's involved in this. And she's ready to kill him. She has, what is it, a dagger, a knife, whatever she brought with her. And then, lo and behold, the killer they've had tied up shows up at the house. And he comes to kill Lowell. There we go. Thank you. And he comes to take out Jordan. And
with a machete.
With a machete. And so Sadie kind of gets out of this. She doesn't have to make the same sacrifice. And I find that interesting. She has to save herself, but she doesn't have to make the sacrifice that Michaela had to make. Whether that intentionally plays in, I think it's a very interesting thing to do. Because we never get the answer of, would Sadie have definitely gone through with this?
And I question whether she would. Because
I don't think so.
Yeah, she has no problem killing people she doesn't care about. If that's already been established. But would she just try to would she just try to convince Jordan oh, Michaela didn't do it, or would she actually have gone through with it?
The reason that I don't think that she would have is because when she drops the knife, she doesn't seem to care that much. It's not I got to get this back because I got to do it as soon as I have the chance. And she also just lets him talk and listens to him. There's no reason to listen to all this. If anything, it's more of a reason to kill him, right? He knows too much.
Exactly.
What about you, Don? Do you think she would have gone through with it?
I'm on the fence. I'm honestly on the fence. I think she probably would have gotten close, but I think she probably would have just backed off.
I think if Sadie tries to go through with this, Jordan overpowers her and they lose. That's what I think. But there's no way to know, right? I do know that her life is saved because of Michaela. Because Michaela gets out of the car and I don't remember what she picks up, a rock or a garden gnome. Okay, it was a garden gnome. I totally thought I was making that up. And and she chucks it through the window to wake up the sheriff, who goes upstairs. And he shoots Lowell, and Lowell falls out the window, and he's just gone, like a good horror movie trope.
Right.
But Sadie would have been fucking toast otherwise. She fed this dude dog food. He's killing her. She's not making it out of this,
Yeah, and then in the very next scene, Sadie's heralded as the hero, and then gets questioned, and they're like, so what is it like to be a tragedy girl? and
Singular.
she's about to correct them. Yeah, she's about to correct them and then doesn't. And then Michaela's just like, oh, hell no, bitch. Like, what the fuck? Like, you can just, like, see it. She's just, like, not, like, that is the moment, like, you know, that's when you don't trust me, I think she figures you were never gonna kill Jordan.
Right.
You know, like, all of these things are adding up, and now she's like, now it's on. Like, now she's pissed.
But I think that's that part that is set to throw you off as an audience member, because Michaela sees when Lowell is leaving, and it's not clear at that point what she's doing. So, you know, you start to have these moments where, you know, they're in the gym and they're fighting in front of everybody or arguing in front of everybody and making it look as though, you know, they're not friends anymore and whatever. And you see this great thing that gets used in a lot of teen movies where, hey, they're not friends, so now they've got their separate lives from each other, and, you know, we're gonna keep inching forward to this penultimate moment where the town is trying to adjust back to normalcy and what's going to take place between these girls. So you start thinking, well, one of them's going to kill the other one because they know. So who's going to kill the other one? Is Michaela going to kill Sadie? Is Sadie going to kill Michaela? And all indications are, well, shit, Michaela's going to have to kill Sadie because now she's going about her life, you know, with Jordan, which, you know, seems as though she's not enjoying too much of it. She's going on with her life with Jordan. The police chief is satisfied because, you know, they were able to at least an idea of getting the guy, or at least stopping the guy from killing his son. We're still going to start moving closer to prom. We're going to have college that's coming up. You know, they're going to start going about their lives. And I love the fact that you also have class that gets brought into this, because Sadie is living in a trailer park. Michaela is living in this upscale, you know, upper middle class home, or just traditional middle class home. And, you know, with a family that it just the family, no pun intended, seems very vanilla. It's kind of like, hi, honey, would you like to have breakfast? You know what?
I love her parents.
It's just one of those things where I'm like, I like the representation of that family in that way, as opposed to, you know, the way they could have kind of played it, because there's still that traditional family unit, but they just play them so like almost 1950s, 1980s, just vanilla parents. You know, not like, you know, the mom ever walked in and you know, yelled at Michaela for whatever reason and called her all types of names. The only conflict that you're seeing that's related to family or friends is between Michaela and Sadie. And, you know, it's great that gets brought in.
I also just like the juxtaposition of the roles that the girls have to play with their parents versus what they're doing daily. But it's also a great, I don't even want to say social commentary, because it's not deep. It's a great representation of how little parents really know about what our kids are doing.
No shit.
Even when you think you're completely involved and you think you have a pretty good grasp of what's going on, we don't. And as a father, that's a terrifying thing for me to say, but it's reality. And I think it's really well represented in this film with all the parents. I love watching, especially Michaela. Like, I don't remember which one it is, but there's a big kill, and then she goes home, and her parents are like, "Hey, honey, how's it going?" And she's like, "I'm tired. Got a big day tomorrow." You know, like, yeah. It's so perfect, because it reminds me of going out and getting drunk with my friends or whatever else I was doing, and then coming home and having to be that different person, you know?
All I have to say is, since my parents are probably listening, I never did anything in high school or college.
Your parents aren't listening.
I know they're not.
Your mom told me she gave up after Night of the Living Dead. She was like, no more. That was episode 5, dude. Right. That's a long time ago.
That sounds about right.
I want to comment on your public fight thing. I'm gonna go with a hot take that goes against everything you believe.
Okay, go ahead.
I don't believe that there's a plan. I believe that they really aren't getting along, and that when they team back up at the end, it's impulse. I don't think that there was a plan. I don't think they're fucking with people. What do you guys think?
I actually agree with that. I agree with that a lot. I don't think there's a master plan to make people think that they're mad at each other. I legit think that these are teenage girls who are mad at each other. And at the moment where Michaela thinks Lowell is going to kill Sydney. Yeah. Sadie, that's it. Sorry, I'm thinking Scream.
He's going to kill her too.
When he's about to kill Sadie, it like clicks with her like, dude, that's my best friend. Like, I may be mad at her, but you don't kill my best friend. Like, I told you leave her alone. To me, that's like such a like societal girl thing. Like, and it's even stereotypical, like the typical, we're fighting, but don't talk shit about my best friend.
Right.
Like,
right.
I can talk shit about my best friend, but you can't. Like, it's a very, mean girl kind of mentality.
It's a very universal thing.
Yeah, I mean, even families, like, I may hate my family, but you can't hate my family. Like, Go fuck yourself. Like, like this is my, like, people to hate, not yours. I legit think that this was not, like, planned. I don't get that feeling watching it.
I'm going to respectfully disagree with both of you. Only because of this. Because of this. I don't think they had it planned out the way it took place, but I think that their plan was their ultimate plan as far as getting out, get so big to where they're the hot shit. Like, you survive this major tragedy, people are going to be talking about you. They're going to be talking to you. You're going to have some fame that's associated with it. And then you kind of carve out your own space within social media. But I think that they may have had this initial plan to do something like this. They had their little, a bump in the road, but they were going to come back together. So I think that some of the stuff that they were doing might have been a little bit exaggerated, because even there's that scene, and it might have been an issue of, I really miss my friend. But there's that scene where in the montage where Sadie's making out with Jordan, or Jordan's making out with Sadie, and you see how fucking bored she is and how she kind of doesn't want any of this. So, I don't know if there was communication between the two of them, or maybe Michaela figured, hey, we'll go ahead and add Lowell to the mix. I'm not going to tell Sadie that I'm adding him to this, so he can go ahead and get a bunch of kills here, and then we get to write about it, report about it. I see it as it was this moment where they had their opportunity and they took it.
So my rebuttal to that is I still don't think it's a plan. I agree with you. I think Sadie's bored. Like, she's been doing some crazy fucking shit, and now she has a normal life.
Right.
I have a problem with normal life following 13 cons in a year. Like, when I come back to my life, I'm like, now what? Like, really? And
totally, I agree with that 100%. Like, she's realizing the grass isn't greener on the other side. She, like, she wants to, like, she's missing that excitement of her best friend. Like, and again, that's why friendships, you make up, because you miss the crazy. Like, I have friends who are literally, like, I'm not naming names, but I have friends who are batshit crazy. And they are so drama filled, and every time you talk to them, their life is just falling apart. And, you get tired of it after a while. You're like, God, I'm not your therapist. I'm not going to fix this for you anymore. I can't always be your sounding board. Not my monkeys, not my circus. But then you always still go back. Like, life is boring without the crazies. Like, and I think Sadie figured that out.
It's like you've been reading IMs between me and Don. He's always, dude, calm down. I don't want to hear this anymore. It's amazing. It's word for word. I was making that up.
All right, I withdraw parts of my argument, Your Honors.
You don't have to. I like that we don't always...
No, I mean, as far as the exaggerated "we're not friends" thing, I still feel that they had some idea of how to get out of this town that involved some mass casualty event.
All right, let's go to prom, guys, since no one else in America gets to.
Oh, I fucking hate prom. You know what? The scariest thing for me wasn't like the end killings or anything else that's going on in this film. It's just the idea of prom. I hate functions like this. I didn't have a great prom experience when I was in high school, but that doesn't play into this. I didn't have a great experience with prom because I just don't like shit like that. And when this scene hits, all I'm thinking about is the awkwardness of high school and the awkwardness with proms themselves, but then also how unnecessary it is. Just how ridiculous proms are in general.
This scene has my favorite line in the entire movie.
Get the
We
fuck out of my face.
survived. No, we survived. Not just the serial killer, but high school.
Yeah.
That's a great line.
Well, that's all the prom is. It's your last walk before you graduate, and I've never liked that idea of. I've never liked the finality that's approached or at least presented with high school, because for me, and I'm going to speak for myself, the two of you can agree or disagree. I didn't like the way that high school was presented as, okay, you graduate and then you move on to life, as if high school wasn't part of life. Like you have this progression that's taking place, and for a lot of people, it's like, it's over. Now we're done with school. I'm like, no, the fuck you're not. Maybe you are if you just don't want to do anything else, but there's other shit you got to do. Even if you have a job, you've got to learn things for that job.
Because, like, I think, like, with, like, high school, it's the last part of structured life. Like, you're required to go to high school. You're expected to be there. If you don't show up to your college class, your professor doesn't usually give a shit. You know, like, the school's getting paid whether you show up or not. But in high school, the school gets paid only if you show up.
Right.
So I feel like when they say, like, oh, life, you know, we survived, you know, youth, it's not that life hasn't been going on, but it's now you're in control of your life. Like, high school, you're not really in control of a whole lot. Like, you still answer to your parents. You still, you know, you can get the car keys taken away if you stay out too late, or, you know, this, that, and the other. So, like.
But I don't know. I see that as more as just being a minor, though, as far as people being able to control your life. So, like, I get turning 18 or turning 21, you know, those milestones that come with certain years. You know, when you turn 16, typically, I don't know what the laws are now, but you would get your license, and it's that first taste of freedom. 18, you're a legal adult. You can vote. You can join the military. You can do all that shit. And so you get more legal rights and responsibilities. 21, you can legally consume alcohol. So, you know, the milestones for me make sense. For me, it was the idea that a lot of people had with high school, like, it's over. And I just looked at it as like, no, high school's over. Like, I just looked at it as it was just one of those things that I had a lot of annoying people I went to school with. And for me, it was kind of like, I don't have to see any of you dick bags anymore. That was what I was celebrating. I didn't give a shit about the diploma or prom. It was kind of like, I don't have to see any of you fuckers ever again.
Yeah, I never cared about prom either. But what about you, Sarah? Did you care about prom?
I only went to my senior prom, and it was actually wonderful. And
That's rare. I don't hear that a lot.
Prom.
Nobody set the place on fire or anything. That's good.
No, it was nice.
Every movie that I see that has prom in it makes me glad I didn't go. And I'll be honest, I don't even know if that's what prom's really like, but that's my whole experience with it, is like movies. So so maybe I don't know anything about prom.
Typically don't have buckets of pig's blood. They don't typically have mass murder. I mean, if that's the case, I feel like seriously let down by my prom.
Does anybody break the crown and make a speech giving pieces to each person in the audience?
Didn't happen at my prom.
Okay, just curious. Anyway, so
all that happened with my prom was people showed up in the same hairstyles they went to the prom in. So on Monday and Tuesday, the hair was still done because their parents had spent so much money, or they had spent so much money on getting their hair done. They're like, nope, it's staying like this for a few more days.
So let's talk this prom scene, because this is a great end of the movie, in my opinion. So Sadie goes to prom with Jordan, and Michaela gets her own date. Our good buddy Lowell, the killer from the beginning, he comes along too. And we have this scene where Mrs. Kent, the blonde teacher that's, always calling Sadie and Michaela out in class, she comes outside to have a cigarette, and Michaela says, "Don't you know that cigarettes can start fires?" Great line. Mrs. Kent basically gets stabbed to death, and then we begin the chaos that happens after that. I still feel like there's no plan, and this is exactly why. Because Sadie's inside, basically not wanting to be there. She's there, but she's bored. And Michaela's outside waiting for Lowell to show up, right? But they're not texting each other. They're not, Sadie doesn't look excited at what's coming. I feel like if she was in on this at all, she wouldn't look as bored as she does. So that's the final rebuttal to my theory that none of this is lined up. Sarah, how much do you like this scene where Miss Kent dies and everything that we're going to lead to after this?
I think it does a good job of setting the tone of where Michaela's headspace is. We know Michaela is ready to off the prom at this point. She watches when she goes back in and watches Sadie become prom queen. I think even at that point she doesn't know if she's ready to kill Sadie or let Sadie, die with the rest of the sheep. And the prom scene as a whole is probably my favorite part of the whole movie. Especially once Lowell gets involved and starts trying to kill Sadie, and Michaela's no, I told you to leave her alone. And so, and I always kind of in my mind, I'm well, is that because she wanted to kill Sadie, potentially with the rest of everybody? Or is it because she knew the whole time, she wasn't going to kill? It's very unclear, which I like.
I took it as she wants to kill her herself, or at least that's how we're supposed to feel as an audience. By this point, we've set Sadie up to be the good guy and the final girl and have to take down Michaela to get out, right? She has to take out Lowell and she has to take out Michaela to get out. That's what I'm expecting at this point. Obviously, that's not what happens, but I think that it's very much a mirror of Sadie going to Jordan's house. She's there to kill him, but can she go through with it? Like you were saying, right. I think it's the same thing here. She's there, I believe, to kill Sadie herself, to get that satisfaction. But again, can she go through with it? I like that it's ambiguous and none of us know for sure.
All right, I got a couple of problems with the ending. I mean, I like this whole scene as far as locking everybody in and setting the prom on fire.
Yeah, give us a summary first.
Okay. Well, before you're talking about how there's this conflict between just within Michaela herself as far as whether or not it seems like she might have wanted to kill Sadie. But they have this moment where Lowell himself is like, fuck you guys, I'm gonna kill whoever I want, and I'm not gonna beg you to ask who I can kill, right? And then Michaela goes ahead and kills Lowell while Jordan and Sadie are up there with them, and you just see this smile that takes over Sadie's face when she actually does kill him, or when Michaela shoots him, right? But it's this great moment where Lowell is able to go ahead and say, I'm not here for your fake internet bullshit, which was a great line to deliver before he gets killed or before they struggle and he gets killed, because he's confronting them and telling them exactly what they are. Like, you guys are fake social media, just personalities. Like you want to have something. Like, I'm actually, it becomes sympathetic for him at this point, but I'm actually this guy who's out here going and killing people and doing it just to kill, as opposed to you guys who are going out and fumbling through this shit and getting likes and retweets and all this other stuff. But they're confronting him. He gets killed, and you see this moment where the two friends come back together, and there's this great line, in addition to what he's just delivered, that Sadie delivers to Michaela, which is, "I missed you so much," which is great because of the context of the scene itself. Like, she has just killed somebody, and they killed the guy that they started this all with. And if I'm Jordan, I'm immediately thinking, like, what the fuck is going on here? Like, I'm getting an idea of what's taking place. I feel like Michaela's been doing this shit. Now I kind of get that you're involved in this because of what Lowell's been saying. It doesn't dawn on him like, I'm probably next. And then he kisses her. And after delivering that line to Michaela about, I missed you so much, after he kisses her, after Jordan kisses Sadie, she says, you don't really know me. And then puts a noose around his neck, which is great delivery, great interaction, a great scene to go ahead and end this relationship and then, return to the relationship that she had with Michaela. And then you see, Jordan just flailing, which I have a huge problem with that part of the scene. His hands aren't tied. She puts the noose around his neck, swings him out. Maybe it's just a panic, or maybe it's just, fuck it, we'll just let him die this way. He should have grabbed the rope and given himself a little bit of slack to at least not have the noose tighten around his neck to where he dies. But then, of course, they lock everybody in, set the place on fire, and I think the casualties that ended up being counted was like around 124 people. And they're the survivors now. They survived this mass tragedy that's taken place, so they get to continue on with their tweets, retweets, the likes, and they get to continue trending as how they see fit.
And they got 2 million followers out of this. That's impressive.
Yeah.
And
really fast.
A new way to become famous.
Really fast before Sarah kicks in here, because I know she wants to talk about this scene. My bigger problem with the noose scene is that it doesn't immediately snap his neck. Like, if it's tight enough.
I love that though. You got him struggling.
Well, and not every time you hang someone does their neck snap, and presumably because he's like a lanky kind of guy, like it's not like his weight wouldn't necessarily do that.
That's true. And I'm thinking of a professional executioner too.
Well, and exactly, they're not professional. She made a makeshift noose. Maybe this wasn't like tight enough. Maybe this wasn't like, she's not new, and it kind of goes with the trend of like nothing really going right the first time. Like he's kind of got to You
hit the magic words. I'm gonna withdraw my complaint.
I don't know. The whole end is like so beautifully shot to me. Like I love the masks. When they put the masks on and it's the black light and it's just like them standing there. I'm just and then the scene where they've locked, they send the hand wavium text to everyone about how the doors are locked, because that happens a lot in movies. Like you mentioned this earlier about the texting, and I've noticed that this in horror movies they use this a lot. Like everybody just automatically has this magical text all app that texts everybody whether you're friends with them or not. Like you see that, and like the Mean Girls, they always cyberbully this way. Like yep. I don't understand it. Like I'm like, wow. I mean, imagine how nice this app would be in an emergency situation, but it doesn't exist. But so and then they're standing in front of the door holding hands. I just think that the scene is just so good. And then the soundtrack on this whole movie was really good. And I liked it a lot. The score, everything. This whole scene was it was done right for me. And which surprises me because I'm not a big Carrie fan. The whole prom death thing is not one of my favorite horror type tropes to go for. But the way that this movie executed that, let's kill everyone, with the fire, it worked for me.
I like that they induced the panic before the fire even. With that message they send everybody. They don't have to do that. You could be panicked enough that the place is on fire and now, haha, you can't get out. And we could just pan out to see the doors locked. But they went the extra step to tell everybody in there, hey, you're fucked. The doors are locked. By the way, there's a fire.
Right.
I think they did that, though, to, kind of further push the social media message, of this
absolutely.
movie. Because these girls are these girls wouldn't do it without getting the recognition. And the people in the gym's panic is their recognition. Yeah, it's their way of getting the realization that, like, holy shit, look at the panic of something we did.
No, I think that's great. And so we come to the very end where they're off to college. And my question to each of you, and my answer is no, is do you think there should be a sequel?
I don't think that there should be a sequel, but I would happily watch a sequel.
I'll
That's a
agree
good
with
answer.
you on that one.
Yeah, you know what? That's where I fall too. I didn't realize I fell there until you just said that. But yeah, like, I'm happy with how this ends. But yeah, if there was a second one, I would bite.
Yeah, I would.
This is one of the things,
especially if you got, like, the same actresses back, and you got, like, everybody else, like, involved on board writing wise and stuff. I think that it could be a fun follow-up, but it's totally unnecessary.
I'd agree with that, yeah.
Well, I think by leaving it this way, you leave it open to questioning, are they going to do this in college? Or are they just going to become serial killers in their own? Well, I mean, they already are, but serial killers in their own right, where they have, I don't know, they want to become famous now for killing, as opposed to famous for reporting, these deaths and things that are taking place, which a college campus would be a great way to follow up, because you've got more people, you've got people that don't know you, so there's going to be a lot more anonymity that goes along with that. So, I mean, it's a possibility. I mean, as a concept, I like the idea. As far as executing it, I don't know how it would work. All
right, here's my pitch. You ready?
Yes.
20 years from now, tragedy moms. Their girls are being bullied on social media, and all hell breaks loose.
They start killing people at the Tupperware parties and
other soccer moms. Yeah,
At the Lululemon stuff. Yeah. I don't even know if they still sell that stuff.
Sarah, why don't you tell us again where to find you on social media and all of that good stuff?
So, because obviously social media is such a big talking point on this.
Is it? I missed that. I'll go back and listen to it later.
Yeah, so I'm easy. Spooky Sarah Says all over every social channel. Geeks Who Eat over all social channels. I made it real streamlined, uniform. Can easily find me anywhere on those names. I'm fairly active on Twitter, so that's probably a good place to come find me. But yeah, thanks for having me.
So that wraps it up for this week. As always, I am James Sabata.
And I'm Don Guillory.
And we'll see you next week on thenecronoma.com.